Hello, welcome to Unical Academy's CISSP Simple Training Series. Today, we will be covering Lesson 3, Business Continuity Planning. This mainly covers Domain 1, partly covers the Domain 7, Security Operations Center. Let us start. What is Business Continuity Planning? Is BCP same as disaster recovery? Does it change? Does it matter? Is very critical aspect that every CISSP aspiring person should know. Very clear. Business continuity planning we do when planning when to handle when something goes wrong. If something goes wrong, what should be done is business continuity planning. How quickly we can restore back the services. Something already gone wrong is disaster recovery. At high level, business continuity planning deals with strategy and the approach to be followed, whereas disaster recovery deals with technical aspects, the granular aspects that are applicable to restore the services dealt by disaster recovery. This should be very clear. Now, this particular chapter is focusing only the business continuity plan. The next lesson, subsequent lessons will be giving detailed overview of disaster recovery. What is business continuity planning? Business continuity planning deals with four aspects. First, be clear on the scope of business continuity planning based on the criticality of the operations that you want to focus. How do you plan for that? For that, how do we assess the business impact analysis for all identified elements, operations, business tasks, people, and everything? And what aspects must be taken into consideration for continuity planning to plan to restore the services? Finally, getting the buy-in of the leadership, implementing and ensuring the regular maintenance. These are the four aspects of BCP that we will be quickly going through in this lesson. Now, the first aspect of BCP, project scope and planning. What do we cover here? Again, the four aspects need to be covered under project scoping and planning. First, ensure you review what has to be covered. What are the critical business services that need to be having a critical BCP planning? What are the support services? Maybe the IT services, maybe the help desk, or basic transportation, whatever is critical support services, the set of support services that are required for your business services. And the corporate security, whether at the main site or at an alternative site, the security has to be involved. Last but not the least, senior executives are also very critical. So at organizational level, while reviewing this, the four, what are the services that are critical, what support services that cannot be ignored, the security and senior executives. Once this review is done, we go to the next section. To ensure a sustainable, a successful business continuity, picking the right team. Identify the stakeholders, the departments, the services that require the attention of business continuity. Pick at least one capable, qualified, experienced individual from each stakeholder department. Also ensure the subject matter experts, maybe system administrator, database administrator, who can help in business continuity planning. At the same time, this can be ignored. Even if we are planning to restore services at alternate site, the importance is security. Either at the existing site or alternate site identified, security can be compromised. While doing that or after doing that, involvement of HR, providing the temporary access, transferring the people, motivating, ensuring they understand the importance of this particular alternate option that the organization has to plan, should be dealt by HR. Then the involvement of senior management, majorly as strategic decision makers or coordinators among various stakeholders to get the buy-in. And then the last, the cyber security and physical security go hand in hand. A legal team must be involved to handle or to get inputs on any potential legal issues, viabilities. The third, okay, review is done, BCP is planned. The third is the resources. Resources are of three aspects. The very critical is people, personnel required, that needs to be considered. And after that, the basic IT infra that is required, as well as the financial aspects that need to be considered. When we are talking about resource planning, basically what are all the required resources? Personnel, IT, as well as infra during the development, during testing and maintenance, including BCP drills. That those drills are essential to ensure viability, sustainability, and maintainability of the approved BCP plan. BCP implementation, when unfortunate situation happens, how quickly the planned, tested, maintained BCP can be implemented. At these three junctures, we need resources. Last but not the least, during scope planning is involving the legal team, also understanding the regulatory requirement of the industry that the particular organization is handling, as well as agreed contractual service level agreements with the customers that need to be legally honored or contractually honored because these SLAs are signed. This ends the first section of BCP, project scope and planning. Let's the second one. After scope planning, now the second is business impact analysis. How do we do business impact analysis? This should be done in two ways. One is qualitative, prioritizing in a non-numeric way, and quantitative. Quantitative majorly from annualized loss expectancy based on the exposure factor and others. How it should be done? What are the options that we consider? At high level, BIA talks about that identifies the business processes and tasks that are critical to an organization's viability in case if the situation demands. So overall focus is how the viability is considered, what are the critical business functions that require backup or business continuity planning, one sort of qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative at high level, if you talk, maybe the team morale or the goodwill that the customers have on the organization, those cannot be compromised. And quantitative point of view, the ALEs, SLEs, exposure factors, AROs, all those were covered in lesson 2 previously. MTD, maximum tolerable downtime that an organization can accept MTD or MTO. Most of the times are used as synonyms, whereas O talks about the outage, D talks about the downtime. A particular business process or a particular business service that can accept or tolerate the outage or downtime in terms of time. Since we have a threshold, a boundary, which is the MTD or MTO, we need to have another objective, that is recovery time objective. If 5 minutes is the maximum time a system can tolerate the downtime, then we need to have the RTO less than 5 minutes, could be 4 minutes. That is a recovery time objective. Okay, the last aspect, all these three are in terms of time. The last is the same time, but from data loss perspective. If the transactions are not committed, are you ready to forego up to 5 minutes of the data commits or 4 minutes of the commits? So this is recovery point objective. This is recovery time objective, recovery point objective as far as data commits or data saves are concerned. These are the identifying priorities. After identifying, then focus on the risks that may happen. For that, what sort of precautions we can take. Person may, maybe the system crashing, site outage, or intentional unintentional data corrupts. Natural disaster could be earthquakes, it could be cyclones or hurricanes that we want to consider. So for each, what is the probability of occurrence? What precautions we can consider? Based on that, the risk is qualitatively, quantitatively prioritized based on risk priority number or whatever the organization feels viable to do. And at the same time, every organization, particularly 2001 Enron debacle, forced every organization to be conscious enough by law or by regulatory as a service organizational control norms. Service organizational control SOC 1 deals only with the finance aspect. As far as CISSP is concerned, these may not be the critical aspect. The other two, SOC 2 is security audit in detail that a regulatory expects. SOC 3, SOC, Service Organization Control 3, are meant for general public. Maybe a person who is interested to purchase a particular company's stock should understand what he or she should understand to take a call. That's it, not in detail. After identifying the priorities, identifying the risks, then comes what is the likelihood. The natural risks are identified, personal made risks are identified. What is the probability? Okay, probability I covered here, but probability is annualized rate of occurrence. Maybe the earthquake data, maybe hurricane data, that government or different publicly available data is one aspect, and at the same time internal, a server outage or OS corruption or particular file overwriting options, what potentially may happen internally or possibility of happening. That is another way of assessing ARO. ARO, annualized rate of occurrence of a particular disaster or accident or a risk. Natural risks are one aspect, personal risks are another aspect. These two should be considered and ARO is calculated for each. After doing that, Yeah, I'm clearing whiteboard to make it neat. Now we are talking about impact analysis. What is impact analysis? First, calculate the single loss of occurrence, single loss of loss expectancy, single loss expectancy. How do we do that? For every asset that is considered, we calculate the asset value. So for every potential accident or exposure, what value of the asset may be damaged? For example, if a software in a system is worth 100 hours development or maybe $2,000 cost, if 10% of that is corrupted, maybe 10 hours efforts lost or $200 software is lost. That is the exposure factor. Again, for this discussion, it goes in terms of percentage of asset value. So asset value multiplied by its percentage of exposure factor is SLE, single loss expectancy. If it happens, what is a single loss? And if that probability of that loss happening 2 times in a year or 3 times a year, that gives you the ARO. Annual loss expectancy, ALE, for this scenario, if asset value is worth 2000 and exposure factor is 10%, and possibility of that happening is 2, that is the ALE that needs to be calculated. Based on that, appropriate call should be taken on how it should be prioritized. What are the resources that need to be prioritized? If one ALE is really costing $10,000, maybe another costing $5,000, maybe another costing $2,000. Based on the ALE, the BCP team should quantitatively prioritize on what to consider, and at the same time, qualitative prioritization. Maybe critical people, maybe an important customer, maybe certain regulatory requirements, or these take equal precedence while we decide. So business impact analysis is talking about identify priorities, identify risk, assess the likelihood, and then comes the impact analysis. Here comes end of this, the third one. Third aspect of BCP is continuity planning. We understood the scope. We also understood the impact analysis. Now we are into the third aspect. Developing and implementing a continuity strategy. The main goal of continuity planning is COOP, continuity of operations planning. So how do the operations can be continued with alternate options is a core focus of continuity planning. This deals with two aspects: strategy development and provisioning and processing. What is strategy? BIA might have decided certain aspects based on ALE, SLE, and other aspects. But practically, there could be certain budgetary constraints or particular IT viability options issues. All those need to be reconsidered because now it is a serious continuity. So strategy needs to be developed. The theoretical aspect or what is really ideally preferred is one. What is practically sustainable is another. So based on that, if required, again revisit the BIA aspect, revisit MTD, revisit RTO. Earlier, MTD might have been decided as 5 minutes. Can it be extended to 10 minutes by convincing the customers or stakeholders so that it may be saving certain dollar amount? Then corresponding to that conclusion, RTO and MTT gets revisited so that overall cost of BCP may come down or the viability becomes a possibility. That's the focus of strategy development. Then comes provisions and processes. Ultimately, people are critical. Saving them is a priority of BCP, and at the same time, having the people who can perform the specific task or set of activities is also very important. After identifying that, the set of people who need to be taken care, then comes the infrastructure and building facilities. This goes in two ways: infrastructure and building of existing. How can you harden the systems or infra? Maybe taking care of the leaky roof, maybe taking care of the regular backup of existing systems, or maybe taking care of the air condition required to maintain certain critical operations. This is hardening of what is existing. The second is taking care of the alternate building facility or IT infrastructure. So continuity planning majorly handle the strategy, take care of the provisioning. This is the third segment of our BCP. Now we are in last and final section, fourth section of BCP, plan approval and implementation. What is plan approval and implementation? The first is critical aspect is getting the buy-in of the senior leadership, mainly on the cost benefit analysis and the viability. Once this is approved, work on the serious steps on how to develop and implement. In this, the critical aspect is maintenance. Maintenance of BCP plan is focus on mock drills, ensuring regular updates and right communication. Third and extremely critical is regular training. Training for every person involved or working in an organization is one aspect. The bare minimum training is what to do to save his or her own life in case of any eventuality, and what sort of minimum awareness is required for the job which he or she is performing. But the people who are directly involved with BCP, the in-depth to fulfill their expected activities as BCP team members, that needs to be planned. Fourth aspect, the essential documentation for BCP: goals, importance, urgency. This is the critical aspect. Vital record program that I want to highlight specifically. Vital record programs, this talks about minimum essential documents of an organization that need to be preserved, safeguarded, that help you to rebuild an organization from scratch if situation demands. So this is very, very critical. Among all other sections of the documentation, this particularly should be focused. This brings us to the end of the last. Now, a recap of everything. You can get it by downloading the PowerPoints. Also access our free tests that we are offering, where you can really practice and be comfortable for each domain of CISSP. Also, the forum and the people who are using Unical Academy can easily communicate among themselves. So please do visit unicalacademy.com and join the hundreds of CISSP aspirants who are already availing our services. Thank you. Have a good day.